Hey guys, so today we are answering a subscriber question, and the question in question was, Fredrik, what programming language don't you like, or what programming language don't you like, and which one wouldn't you work in again? So let's get into it. Well, this is the sort of question I like liking things. I like having a positive attitude towards things as much as I can, but there are absolutely languages that I'm not a big fan of. To my mind right now, I only think that there is one language that I can pretty much guarantee you that I would only work in it if I truly had to. And that language would be Objective-C. Yes, I am not a fan of Objective-C. I think it has a horrible syntax. It is very unapproachable. It looks like it looks like pretty much what it is. It has the I don't mind Erlang as an example, but there are a few commonalities between the two, at least from the design level, that I think is very noticeable, and that is the difference between a language that was designed for mainstream consumption and a language that was designed pretty much for internal use. And to me, Objective-C is pretty much a language that was designed for internal use. It is, I don't know what they were thinking when they made that language. I think what's even worse when you do iOS development is that, all right, so we have Swift now, and things are moving in that direction, but the support for Swift, maybe it's been gotten better, but at least a few months ago when I was doing development, some more serious development in Swift, I still had Xcode had pretty much fairly poor support in comparison. I mean, Swift is still in many ways a second-class citizen in the Apple ecosystem, and I assume that that's just because Objective-C has been around for longer. But that's the sort of language that I don't know. I don't like it. I can't really tell you anything apart from that the syntax isn't really nice. It feels fairly unapproachable, and that's about it. I don't really have anything better for you. I mean, there are of course other languages that I don't like necessarily. Ironically enough, I'm not a big fan of Scala, not because I think it's like a bad language necessarily. It's just that there are decisions that have been made in that language that I think are absolutely it's stupid. That's just how I feel about it. One of my favorite things to hate on in that language would be the usage of implicit values, which is to me as dumb as going back to PHP again and declaring a bunch of global variables. So by using implicits, you basically you just convolute your solution so much, and many times I just feel like the entire concept of having something like an execution context, or having the asynchronicity that comes with, say, the popular Akka frameworks. I mean, it feels almost like these things were designed in order to bridge the limitations that come with, that came from the time, at the time of designing Scala. In order to provide these more functional practices, you kind of had to invent these concepts and create something, shoehorn in a solution that would make it possible to run efficient, multi-threaded or asynchronous code on the JVM. That's just how I feel about it. But I will tell you a similar thing that I told a coworker of mine, a more junior coworker, because she found it to be very hard as well to get started with Scala. And I told her that's absolutely true. I mean, Scala is probably on the harder side of things, just as Objective-C is on the less approachable side of things. But this is one of the differences between being a professional and being someone who, writes some code. Sometimes if it stands between you working at a company and learning this programming language, you have to make a pick for yourself. Unless you are so committed to one specific language, or you're so opinionated that you only work in one certain way, then you're going to have to learn it. It was the same for me, and at least I think so. I think that I don't have to like a programming language especially much to learn how it and understand how it works. It's just a tool that allows me to express solutions to a given problem. And even though I don't like certain aspects, I should still have the ability to, well, to learn the quirks. I mean, if I can learn the quirks of JavaScript, why wouldn't I be able to learn the quirks of Objective-C or Scala or something like that? Of course I can, and that's exactly what I did. And these days, I mean, I don't mind Scala as an example. I'm pretty much as productive as most are, I would say, and I can produce the results that I want, and that's pretty much all I want from a programming language. If I have a personal choice in the matter, I won't pick Scala, and I will definitely not pick Objective-C. But sometimes, you know, the company is already invested in that language, and instead of throwing a fit about it, you just sit down, do the adult thing, learn the tool, and start producing results, because that's what I'm getting paid for. So what I want to take away from this is that generally, I mean, I have tons of languages that I really like. I just personally have bad experiences from Objective-C, and I'm not a big super fan of Scala either. Not because, I mean, if it stands between Objective-C and Scala, I will pick Scala. But there are things in Scala I think that are fairly poorly designed, and I think could be a lot better. But that doesn't mean that I won't do the adult thing and sit down, because I actually do work full-time in Scala, which means that, of course, I'm going to sit down. I'm going to do my best to be as good at Scala as possible. But you will not likely see me making it the first pick for anything that I do in my private time. And I think that that is a very reasonable thing, or a very reasonable mindset to have. And I think that's something you should take with you. It's not about, you know, always working in your favorite language. It is about producing results with the tool that you are provided. If you have a pick, that's great. If you don't have a pick, then you sit down, you learn the tool, and you start producing value for a company. Have a great day.